Hello gang, Dave here and I'm super, thanks for asking. Yes, the summer of graphics has kicked off in earnest, with Nvidia firing the starting gun earlier than its AMD rivals by launching the new super variants of its RTX Turing graphics cards. That puts them almost a week ahead of the July 7 release date of the Radeon RX 5700 series cards, which makes this all a bit tricky because there's an AMD-shaped performance elephant in the room, where I'm not allowed to talk about specifics in terms of how Nvidia's refreshed GPUs stack up against the red team's new cards until Sunday. It's kind of like this is a part one or one of those horrible review in progress kind of things. How frustrating. Let's see if I can get through this video without inadvertently breaking an NDA. We definitely can talk all about Nvidia's Super cards though. And let's start by getting my biggest bugbear about the new GeForce graphics refresh out of the way first. That name, Super. I mean, really? That's what you went with? Even the faintly ridiculous Ultra name the Green Team used to use in past times would have been preferable. Hell, Jensen & Co could have carried on the naming war with AMD and opted for the XTX suffix to really needle the old ATI faithful. That would have been better. But Super? Yeah, I'm also not big on the super shiny new shrouds either. There's this thing's like a thumbprint magnet and the off-brand green logo looks a little bit Fisher-Price too. Seriously, it doesn't even look like the right green. But that's pretty much it for the negs though, because I'm absolutely on board with everything else Nvidia is doing with these new graphics cards. The three new graphics cards launched into the Turing lineup give a fresh look to the RTX stack, with Nvidia effectively retiring the non-super versions. Right now we're only seeing the RTX 2070 and RTX 2060 in super trim. Those will launch on July 9th, just a couple of days after AMD's Navi cards get released. But there will also be an RTX 2080 Super hitting the shelves on July 23rd, though we've yet to test that particular card. That means at the top we still have the original RTX 2080 Ti, then come the super versions of the 2080, 2070 and 2060, with the old school OG RTX 2060 propping up the rest as the cheapest RTX card at $349. And pricing wise it's all pretty interesting. Only the Ti card at the top retains the reference Founders Edition pricing split, with the rest all coming with the same base starting price. 2080 Super starts off at $699 or £669, the 2070 at $499 or £475, and the new 2060 at $399 or £379. Compare that with the RX 5700 XT at $449 and the RX 57 at $379, and there's going to be a pretty consistent range of cards on offer to all comers from $350 and up. Sure, anyone hoping for some mainstream pricing relief from these new launches will likely be disappointed, but such is the way of our inflated graphics card market these days. Sad face. In terms of specs, starting with the RTX 2060 Super, we're looking at almost the complete TU106 GPU getting used. Of course, a full-fat 36SM version of the chip is the one used in the original RTX 2070, so it's not quite all there, but the new 2060S has 34 SMs for a total of 2,176 CUDA cores. With that you get extra ray tracing capabilities more on par with the base 2070, as it has extra Tensor and RT cores too. But the real kicker is the switch up in memory. Nvidia has given the RTX 2060S 8GB of GDDR6 memory instead of 6GB, and a 256-bit bus instead of the 192-bit bus it previously used. And that offers far higher memory bandwidth of 448GB per second, though you are looking at a slightly higher TDP because of that. The RTX 2070 Super is a slightly different beast, however, by necessity in fact. As the OG 2070 used the full TU106 GPU, as I've already mentioned, any higher spec card would need to use a different GPU entirely. And so it's using the TU104 that was first introduced with the RTX 2080. So the 2070 is actually kind of an RTX 2080 Lite, or an RTS 2080 if you're into your old school GeForce parlance. The new spin of the TU104 comes with 40 SMs as opposed to the 36 of the straight 2070 or the 46 of the standard 2080. And that means you get 2,560 CUDA cores in total. The chip is also clocked a fair bit higher than the previous versions of either the 2070 or the 2080 too. With more SMs come more Tensor and stroke ray tracing hardware, so the hardware-based high-fidelity extras are more effective on the new Super Silicon 2. What hasn't changed, however, is the memory side of the 2070. The Super Edition still has the same 8GB of GDDR6 memory, running at 14GB per second. And what of the RTX 2080 Super? Well, I'm afraid you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that one, because Nvidia have announced that it's not going to arrive on the 9th of July, it's going to come out on the 23rd of July instead. But we do now know the full specs for the new card. It's going to come with faster GDDR6 memory attached to it, running up to 15.5GB per second. It's also going to come with the full-fat TU104 GPU, the same as in the current Quadro RTX 5000 series, which will give it 48 SMs and 3072 CUDA cores. That will probably only give it a moderate performance boost overall, but then at that level, Nvidia doesn't really have the sort of open competition that it will soon have at the Navi end of the graphics card spectrum. So this is where things get interesting and a little bit frustrating. I can't talk about the Navi cards until Sunday, which means I can only really give you part of the equation. There have been some leaked Radeon benchmarks we could refer to, but of course we can't speak to their veracity, or at least shouldn't, lest lawyers get involved. But suffice to say that the two new Super cards are very much that, and with the RTX 2070 Super now sporting almost the same level of silicon goodness as the standard 2080, the older card has practically become obsolete. Lucky there's a Super edition of that one on the way. At 1440p, the delta between the original 2080 and the new 2070 Super is pretty much limited to just single-digit performance differences. It's only in Shadow of the Tomb Raider where the 2080 opens up a 12% lead, where 91 frames per second plays 81 frames per second. The rest of the time you're looking at between 3 and 8% as a performance delta at that increasingly standard 1440p resolution. And in comparison with the best that AMD can currently offer, the two RTX Vega cards, they both get put in their place by these Super GPUs, and it's going to take a Herculean effort on behalf of the new Navi cards to top the latest Turing chips. Going in at 1080p settings, however, the RTX 2060 Super doesn't look too great an upgrade from the OG 2060. At most, again in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you're looking at about 14% faster. But it's often much less than that, especially when you throw Far Cry New Dawn down its pixel pipeline. Here there's a paltry 3% performance difference. But when you take the Super to a 1440p resolution, the improved memory subsystem really comes into play. In the latest F1 game's DX12 iteration, for example, the 2060 Super is 23% quicker than its forebear, delivering over 100 FPS compared with the standard 2060 card's 83 FPS. That all means that the new $399 card is actually a very capable 1440p GPU now. Previously, that's the main preserve of the standard RTX 2070. In performance terms then, the new Super cards have moved the game on again from where the standard Turing GPUs appeared at less than a year ago. Nvidia will be adamant that the new Super cards are not a response to AMD's upcoming Radeon card. It will say that it takes more than just a couple of weeks to come up with a whole new graphics card stack, which is true. But Nvidia will have known what AMD was planning with the Navi GPUs, and having a Turing refresh in the pipes would never be a bad plan. What's likely, however, is that picking the 2060 and the 2070 to get the super treatment first will be as a direct result of the 5700 series laser targeting of the original RTX GPUs, which is a smart move again by Nvidia. Where it was once cursed for the high pricing of the original Turing GPUs, it has now cut the $100 Founders Edition tax, bumped up the relative performance almost up to the tier above, and has therefore shifted the GPU strata one level up while retaining the same overall pricing structure. We're effectively getting higher gaming performance for either the same price or considerably less. Take the Founders Edition of the RTX 2070 and its Super equivalent, for example. The original FE was a $599 card, while the Super Edition's Founders card is $499 with another 15% higher frame rates. It's not quite the pre-mining Pascal levels of GPU pricing, but it's a lot better than the price gouging of the early Turing times. The RTX 2060 Super is a little tougher to pass, however. With almost 2070 level gaming prowess, I think it's a great card, but it's higher than the original 2060's price and only really gives you the goods when you switch to 1440p. At 1080p levels, the extra money is maybe harder to swallow. But this preemptive strike from the Green Team is unlikely to be a knockout blow for AMD's Navi hopes. But where it was targeting the RTX 2070 with a similarly priced RX 5700 XT and promising similar gaming performance, the Super Edition has suddenly moved the goalposts to ensure that Nvidia stays on top. Neither the 2060 or the 2070 Super is an obvious upgrade from the non-Super versions of either card, but for anyone going into the GPU market today, they represent a tantalising option. But with the new Radeon cards on the horizon, those options are only set to expand. And that's why this can only be part one of July's GPU story, because the final numbers from the full AMD Nvidia head-to-head can only be divulged in full on Sunday, so stay tuned. So Nvidia has fired first with both barrels of its Super Editions, and when the RTX 2060 and RTX 2070 Super cards go on sale come July 9th, they will be offering tangibly higher gaming performance for a far more acceptable price point than their progenitors. But with Navi launching only a few days ahead of that, only the ardent Nvidia fanboy would dive headlong into the GPU market for a supercard without knowing how the competition fares. And we'll have all those numbers for you this coming Sunday. These are interesting times. Thanks for watching, fingers crossed I haven't accidentally broken any AMD NDAs, and check back soon for more lovely PCGN hardware stuff. I hear there are some new CPUs launching soon too.